actually, but it is what it is, and we'll begin now. So I hope everyone can see my screen, and let's proceed with the session. So welcome to the fifth session of Learning Track series. In this series, we teach you how to build your own website. We'll teach you about Git, HTML, and so much more. And by the end of the series, you should be able to confidently build your own project and showcase your project in front of faculty and win prizes. All right. So a little about me. I'm Aniket, and I'm the vice president here at Women in Open Source chapter. And I'll be taking you through this session for today. So this is the fifth session, like I said, and we'll be learning all about Node.js and how to do stuff basically with Node.js. So a little overview of what we learn in today's session is here. So we'll begin with the absolute basic. We'll start at what basically Node.js is. And by the end of the session, you should be able to create your own web server via two methods, actually, not just one. And you should also have a proper understanding of the Node package manager, and you'll be able to use a lot of other people's codes in your own website to make it beautiful. All right. So without further ado, let's jump right in and let's talk about what Node.js is. Now, if you go to the Node.js website where I copied this statement from, you'll see this sentence. So it's an asynchronous event-driven JavaScript runtime, and it is used to build scalable network applications. Now, there are too many words in this sentence, right? So let's just focus on two words at the moment: JavaScript runtime. So if you look into JavaScript and how it's executed in a machine, you'll always need a browser to execute JavaScript. Like Microsoft Edge, it has Chakra, which is a JavaScript runtime designed specifically for Microsoft Edge. There is Google Chrome, which has V8 engine. There is Mozilla Firefox, which uses SpiderMonkey. Now, because of this ambiguity, JavaScript code, sorry, JavaScript code also turns out to be ambiguous. Give me a moment. Sorry about that. So, like if you have studied DSA with JavaScript, then you'll know that some of the functionality. 1 minute. Yeah, some of the functionality of the sorting methods or the searching methods is different in Chrome, and it's different in Mozilla Firefox. So it's difficult to know what exactly the JavaScript runtime will do in the background while you execute some code. Maybe the output would be same, but some processes happening in the background will be different, right? But again, you need a browser for that. JavaScript primarily runs on a browser. That is a huge problem. Now, what if you want to develop JavaScript applications without the need of a browser? So that is where Node.js comes in. So imagine you have this V8 engine, which is Google Chrome's default JavaScript runtime. And there was a programmer called Ryan Dahl, and he took this engine and implanted it inside of a C++ program, right? And this C++ program was now called Node.exe or Node.js. So what does this do? It basically contains the V8 engine, and the JavaScript code that you pass to this Node application, Node.exe, is executed by the V8 engine inside of the C++ program. So that is basically what Node is. Now, this allows JavaScript not only run on the browsers, but also on the servers, thus adding a little more to the ego of the average JavaScript developer. They hate the language, but they refuse to code in any language apart from JavaScript. Enough talk. Let's start with installing Node.js in your system, right? Give me a moment and I'll switch my screens. All right, I really hope you can see my screen. Fine. So we'll begin with installing Node.js. So just go to Google and search for Node.js, and you'll come here, and pretty much the first result is what you need. Go to download, and you'll be able to install Node.js in your system. So I have a Windows machine, and my Windows machine is 64 bits. So I'll take the installer. I would prefer the installer instead of the binary, and you can grab whichever one you prefer. You will find the instructions everywhere on the internet. Feel free to consult. So I have downloaded the 64-bit installer already on my system, and I'll just take you there. So I have VS Code open, and here is my 64-bit installer. So if I want to run it, I'll give you an overlook. What I've done already is I've installed this on my computer. So you can just hit next. You'll get the option to install it. You won't see this menu, and you'll have to select all of this and click this, hit next, and you should have Node.js installed by the end of this installation process, right? It's a visit. It's nothing new to you. You have already installed stuff in your systems before, so I'm skipping this part of it, right? So after that is done, you'll find Node in your system. How do you check Node is in your system? There was a bit inside the installer which said add to path. And if you were able to add to path, if not, try to restart your system if this doesn't come up. All you need to do is go to your terminal and do node hyphen version, or you can just do hyphen version if you're too lazy, and you should get the version that you installed. So I have 21.1.0, right? This is there. And if you want to develop, if this does not come up again, try to restart your system. Try to add node to your path. If it does not come up, just try to type node is not recognized as an internal command, and you should get some instructions as to where you need to put node in your path, right? Set path and all of this. You can go and set your environment variables from it. It's pretty much like setting up Java, something similar you did for Java command, right? And you can do this as well. Anyways, after you've installed Node, you should be able to get a hold of Node from your terminals itself. So yeah, we'll just try to run some basic stuff. So like Python, if you enter Python over here, you should open the Python REPL, right? REPL means read eval print loop. It's basically a menu which lets you put in statements and then execute code. So an interactive menu sort of, and you can enter single lines or statements, and as soon as one block finishes, your program ends right over there, and you get the output instantly, right? Variables and stuff are stored, but they are stored locally in this terminal and only as long as you run this REPL, right? So this is about Python. Something similar is there for Node. So if you run Node, you should have a similar Node REPL over here. Now, just like Python, where you do print something, right? You do print something inside this these parentheses. For Node, you'll have to do something very similar to JavaScript. So console.log, and it's actually pretty awesome. You see how it describes what you're going to type, and a little description around it, what that function might be. So we'll go and print hello Node, right? Hit enter, and it says hello Node, and that's it. Just this was basically your first REPL program, and we'll actually go and make our new program, right? All right. So I've exited that, and now we'll come over here and create a few new files. Now let me just change the slide for formality. Yes, we have the next slide. Hello Node, your first Node program. So Node.js, like Python, it has a few quirks, and it is actually pretty awesome when you try to build certain applications with it. So here I'll make a file called index.js. Now, why is index.js? Why did I name it index.js? Because it's a special name, actually. You'll find out soon. So what I'll do over here is I'll again print out console.log. If you're in VS Code, you'll have some shortcuts. If you don't, you can install snippets from the marketplace. So just go for Node.js snippets. And yeah, Node snippets, you can install this. It's pretty good for 5 stars. And if you have JavaScript snippets also, that's good. I have JavaScript snippets. And if you have Prettier, it will format your code, so it'll be good. Now, we'll do log, and again, the same thing, hello node. So how do we run this application, right? Just like Python, you do Python and then certain, you know, name of the file, and then the command line arguments. You can just do simply node and index.js. I will print hello node, right? Because this is the content of this program. Now, what's actually good about this application name or this file name is that you don't need to put index.js fully. You can just put index. That is actually not useful because of this file name, but actually it comes through node. You can do node index. What I was going to say was you can do node space dot. So what does this dot do? The dot specifies the current directory. So the current directory is node session 5, and I'm here at node session 5. If I do dot, it will go over and try to find everything that is named specifically index.js, and will try to run that. If it's named anything apart from index.js, then it won't run. Let's try to see it. Index node space dot does it. If I rename this to maybe index and try to run this again, you can see it says module not found. So it's trying to actively search for an index.js file, which is the entry point of this application. All right. So let's begin to let's move a little forward and try to see how Node works. So we have the module system where everything is basically a module. So we'll see what I mean by that. Now, if you are coming from a JavaScript background, which you must be because you're in the Node session, right? So in JavaScript, you can actually do window, right? I'm getting this MDN reference because I have the snippets, but it won't work actually. I can do this on JavaScript. I can even do document on JavaScript, right? That's how we get HTML objects. So we get a document dot like find class, find element by ID and all of that, and we get the elements. So if I try to run this now, I will get errors. Why? Because window does not exist in Node.js. Because again, it's not running in a browser. It's running in your system. It's running in a C++ program, right? So what we need instead, what we have instead to work with is actually very useful. We have module. So this is something that we get because of losing something else. So we lost window and we got module. So what is this module? We'll soon find out that everything in JavaScript is basically, in Node.js, is basically a module. So let's run this as well. And you'll see an object because, again, everything in JavaScript is also an object. So I think the entire output didn't come. Okay, so we have this over here. Every module has an ID, which is unique to it. And it depends on where you run this file from. I'll show it in a while. Then it'll have all the additional details like file name and path and stuff. And yeah, this is basically your module object. It will also have something very crucial to Node.js, which is called exports. So keep a track of this. We'll actually add a lot of stuff to exports and see how it's pretty much the backbone of Node.js, right? This is again an object, so a nested object, and you can add variables, you can add arrays, and you can add all sorts of things, functions as well, inside exports and get them from anywhere. Then, not just module, we have a lot more stuff. So we'll try to see what else do we have. So log again, we'll do dir name. Dir name does the directory. Then we have file name, and then let's just execute this first, and then I'll move on to the next one. Right. Okay, so we get the module and up until here. Then we get the directory name, dir name, double underscore. Then we have the file name. So these are all global and they are accessible. Not global per se, we'll find out what exactly they are. Next, we have a very useful thing. Just like module, we have a variable called global, an object actually called global. So if you print global, you will see something new. Here, you'll see an object called global, and the global object has all of these properties, and you can add stuff to the global object, and they will be remembered by the node runtime forever until you decide to remove them. So what I'll do is I'll just add global dot name, and I'll add my name, and I'll do a log of global again, right? Moving on, we'll see that initially we don't have anything, any name property inside, but after executing this line, we have a new name property which can be accessed from some other file. Okay, so let's go and see creating and loading modules, which will allow me to demonstrate a lot more stuff and explain as well as we go through them. So we'll create a few more files, just one more file actually, greeter.js. So what does greeter.js signify? It will just be a file with a function. Function, we'll call it greet. It'll take a name parameter, and inside name we'll log hello. And if you are from JavaScript, you would have known that I missed something. We have to go for backticks, and then this, and there I have it. So we have function greet, right? Now, what I was saying back then, that we have module and it has a very important property called exports, right? So let's try to import greeter.js. So just like in Python, we have the import statement. Every language has their import statement of sorts. Node.js also has an import statement, kind of. It is called require. Now, require, we'll figure out it's actually a callback, and it's not precisely a strict keyword or a state, an import statement, basically. We'll find that out soon. So what I'll do is I'll make a new object called greeter, and I'll require greeter.js. So since I need to put in a path over here, I'll put this. Have I spelled require properly? Yep. This stupid error from VS Code, no problem. So we have dot slash to mention the path, and then we can put in the file that we want. So these three files, out of these three, I want greeter. So it's optional for you to put .js. It's not necessary, again, like you have seen. Now let's try to call greeter.greet, right? Before that, let's print greeter as well. You see, it's an empty object. It has nothing actually inside. But what I see from here, from my perspective, is that it should have something inside. It should have the greet function inside, right? It does not have it though. Now let's try to find out why it does not. So if I go for console.log, does it return? Oh, it just prints. So I don't need to log. I'll just do greeter.greet. Okay, code completion also does not work. I'll give my name, and let's try out of the blue. Some random code we put in without knowing the consequences, and it gives me the problem. Greeter.greet is not a function. But okay, look, I actually made a function, but why does it say it's not a function? Because again, everything in JavaScript, in Node.js, sorry, is a module. So this file in its entirety is a module. This file index.js in its entirety is again a module. So how do I show that this greet method, how do I tell JavaScript or Node that this greet method should be available to the other modules within this folder, right? So how can I do that? Just like there are private and public variables in Java and also in many other languages, all you need to do is to mention module.exports, and I'll make a new property over there and give it greet. So what does this do? It gets the module, it gets this current module, this greeter.js module, and it does exports. It gets the exports object over there. And inside the exports object, it creates a new property called greet. And then I'm assigning greet this function. So greet inside of module.exports is now referencing to this function. So what I'll do is just log module now inside greeter.js, and I won't do this. I just require and leave it right there. So now once you execute this, what's happening is it's going to index. I'll just reduce the size a little so that I can see. Yeah. So it's going inside index.js, it's getting this file, and since it's getting it and this is outside right over there, console.log, so it's getting printed anyways. Now inside the exports object of our greeter.js module, we'll see that we have a greet function, greet property, which refers to a function. So like we made it, we have a greet property that refers to a function called greet, right? And if you notice, the ID is now greeter.js. Why? Because we printed the module over here. If you print the module over here, the ID would be dot, just dot, because it's the entry point of the application, right? Fine. So now that we have done this, can we go and comment out this line? We will comment out this line as well, and we'll do greeter.greet Aniket. That's right. And it prints, hello Aniket. So that's basically what modules or everything inside Node is. Each and every file is a module in itself. Now, one thing that you need to understand is that these are not keywords. Require is not a keyword. Module is not a keyword. Then you dir name, the double underscore dir name. This is also not a keyword. Double underscore file name is again not a keyword. These are all values that are passed to you. So if I go to Google and let's try to see node module wrapper function. Yeah. And here, let's go to Stack Overflow and we'll see something like this. So this thing you will not notice in Node, but what happens in the background as soon as you create any module, like we have created greeter.js, and what will happen is it will wrap the entire module code from line 1 to line 6. It'll wrap it inside this, all right? And it will be basically wrapped inside a function. So Node in the background will make a function. The function will hold everything inside. So in JavaScript, we can have nested functions. So it will have every bit of code that you have written inside a function that is not appearing, that is not visible to the programmer, that is not visible to you. Only the properties will be visible to you. So you can see whenever we make a module in Node.js, we'll get this loaded into this function. And this function will give us all these 5 properties: exports, require, module, file name, and dir name, right? And all of these are filled in dynamically by Node during the runtime or during the execution time of this module or all of your files. So that is quite important. This is kind of crucial if you want to know about the like Node.js in depth, and teaching more about this is beyond the scope of this particular session. it's a small session of 1 hour, and I cannot go and dive deep into it. But if you would like to know about it, please go to Node.js documentation, and you will find out modules, the module wrapper. Now, moving on, we have the HTTP module, or create your first server. So this is something that I'm very excited to show you. Now, let's go to the documentation. Where is the documentation? Yeah, documentation, and we'll go to the API reference documentation of Node. So always go to the API reference documentation and keep it open, even MDN, while you're developing HTML. If you're a Flutter developer, then open the Flutter documentation, the API docs, and you can see that I have the Dart API docs bookmarked over here. I have the TensorFlow docs bookmarked over here. All of these docs must be in hand and present with you. And if you have an internet connection, then you are all in luck, because you can just see all the methods and everything that you need, and precisely plan your actions from there. So Node comes with a lot of modules, so you can create your own modules. We created modules like this over here, and just like every language, like Java comes with the utility package, Python comes with math, random, and so many more, date time and time, all of that. Node also comes in with all of these packages, right? And some of them are very, very important. Like, let me see, process is important. Path is very important. OS, again, is very, very important. We have HTTP and file system. So when you'll be working with all of this, console is not exactly one, but yeah, it's class. Anyways, when you'll be working with Node.js or any application that you're building, you'll be using many of these packages. So today I'm going to show you the use of 3 different packages, starting with the HTTP server. And while we are building the HTTP server, we will use the path package. We will also use the file system package, and we'll learn a lot about them. So let's go to HTTP, and this will open the Node.js documentation for HTTP. There are many classes, agent, client request, and so much more. But what we are interested in is to create a server, right? What was our agenda? We want to create our own HTTP server. All right, so I'll just do a find, create server. There we go. We have create server over there. So if you scroll down, you'll find all the properties, and you'll also find examples from here. Okay, so ignoring the examples, let's try to create something from scratch. HTTP server.js. Now, here, what I'll need basically is to require the HTTP module. Now, if you see the docs, you'll see, since we are using the module, we will need to import the module into our module, into our file, or into our module, basically. So how do we do that? Again, const HTTP is equal to require, and then you can just pass HTTP. If everything is done well, you should be able to execute your HTTP server.js. And yes, we have no errors. It's fine. If you want, you can do a log statement, HTTP, and you'll see everything that it provides. It's massive, actually. And you see all of these properties, all of these objects. HTTP, as soon as you refer to this package, you will get all of these properties over here. And the thing that we are most interested to look at is create server. And you can see it's right over there, create server. So let's create our first server. So constant server. Again, there is something that you need to know is, why do we have const over here? We can have var, we can have let, no problem at all. Why do we have const? Because JavaScript is, again, a dynamically typed language. So it might happen is that during the programming cycle, I might have made a mistake, and I might have assigned it a string value, maybe, let's say. And then proceeding like after line 2 onwards, everything that I do on HTTP would be done on a string instead of the HTTP object, right? So it will give me a lot of errors. and I won't find them out until production. So to make sure that I have them while we are building, we'll make them constant, because if we try to run this now, it won't run. Let me comment this code out. You can see we are trying to reassign assignment to a constant variable. So since it's a constant, we cannot reassign this, and it will say, okay, you have probably made a mistake and you need to remove this leg, or maybe make this a variable. Fine. So coming back over here, we have a constant server. Let's make a server. So we have create server, and create server needs a request listener. And you can see the type of request listener. So it's basically what I can see from here is that it's a function which has a request listener, type of incoming message, comma, type of server response. So it has a request and a response. So we'll be getting something from the server, from the requests that are made to the server, and then we will be sending a response back to the browser. So that is technically how servers work, right? So we'll make a new function. Sorry, I sometimes forget the syntax of JavaScript. We have rec and we have res. Now we're making them and we'll be using them later on in this. So what I'll do basically is do res.end, and we'll do hello and welcome to my web server. And after this, what we need to do is to start the server, we need to listen for requests actively. So we'll do server.listen, and we need to specify a port, a host name, and a listening listener. So all of this is not necessary. You can just mention 5000, and then I'll mention the listening listener, which is again going to be an arrow function, and I'll do a log. Server is listening at port 5000. Again, this is hard coded. This is not the way to go to, but just a crude example, nothing to take objectively. Okay. We'll start this, and you can see server is listening at port 5000. So I'll go to my browser and I'll open localhost 5000, and I get hello, welcome to my web server. So I'll open this up and do refresh, and you get all the requests. I'm on the network tab of my debugger. So if you want to open it, you can just do Control-Shift-I, or much better, you can open it with inspect over here, and then you can switch to network, or you can go again, more tools, developer tools, and then go to network. Multiple ways of opening it. And I'll specifically look at documents because I don't want this favicon ICO, because favicon is this one, and when we return something, it tries to look for a website, but we're not returning a website, we're just returning text, right? So since we're returning text, it tries to find this icon, but it does not find it anywhere, so we have another request. I'll just switch to doc, and we see localhost, we have a size over there, and 200 as a response, and we have received it. Okay, now what we'll do is try to get something from the URL. So if I am on this URL, then I should have the welcome page, and if I am on some other URL, then I should have maybe a not found page or something like that. So if I do something over here, then it still gives me this. But if I go to GitHub and then put in some random URL, then you'll see that they have a 404 page, and it actually looks pretty awesome. And we need to make something like this later on in our website when we are deploying it to many people. This is a very UI centric or user-friendly design. Yes. So we'll try to implement something similar. And this, again, I'm saying, is not the way to do it, but we'll do it anyways. if condition else, I'll just put this one back inside, and I'll make a condition over here. If request dot URL. So again, I think I forgot to log request over here. Let me comment these out. Server is listening. Let's do this. And you can see if I'm logging request has all of this over here, a lot of stuff, right? A lot of stuff. And over there, one important property is URL. If I do it now, we get the URL that has been posted over here. Now, if I remove this, if I'm just going to localhost, then I'll be getting this as URL. So I'll just do an if else check. It will be equal to slash. If the URL is equal to this, then I want to send hello and welcome to my web server. But if it's not this, then I want to send maybe a 404 statement. So oops, not found. Maybe wrong URL. So this is there, but you'll see one more thing. Reload it, we let it go. And if I try to go to some random, yeah, we get random and oops, not found. But we get the status yet again as 200. Now, if you Google code HTTP status codes 200, then you'll see HTTP status 200 defaults to OK, or it indicates OK. What is 400 and what is HTTP status code for not found? Not found is 404, like we saw in GitHub. So we need to return that that particular code back to the user. So we need to put something over here. We need to put 404 as a header. So how can we do that? We can do that simply by rest.write head and then put in the code. So if I do 404, started, server is listening and put, and we do this. So you can see now it's all red and it says the status is 404 because we couldn't find it. The server returned 404 and we got, oh, we have a hand. Yeah, Shamal, I think you should be able to put your message in the chat box. Please do that. And as soon as the meeting's over, as soon as the session from my end is over, I'll check the chat box and tell you or try to answer your problem, right? We cannot let everyone unmute their mics. So please try to ask in the chat box. Fine. Moving on, we have, let's try to build something better. Like, we don't want text in our web server. No one likes text. If you send this to a designer, they'll probably kill themselves. So what you want instead is an HTML. Can you return an HTML over here? Yes, you can. You can return an HTML. You can put them in tags. And hello. So we'll run this again. And we get our HTML over there. But again, this is not a way to write HTML in your code. You make an HTML file. So it's index.html. And over here, I'll make a simple HTML file, HTML5, web server, h1 tag, hello, and okay, welcome to my web server. Right, there we go. Now, the problem is we need to send it to the system. So how do we do that? For this, we need another module, which is called the file system. So if I go back, all the way back, we'll have file system over there. And file system has many options, many properties, many functions, and you can see all of them at your own pace. no one's rushing. But what I'll do is I'll just take the useful ones. So constant fs is equal to require file system. And now at this point, what I'll do is try to read the file. So file or constant file is equal to fs.read file sync. Now there is a difference between read file and read file sync. You'll see two properties, read file and read file sync. So read file is actually non-blocking. It is asynchronous. So it will happen asynchronously in your background and will let other parts of your code get executed. So it's kind of like running on its own thread, even though this is not a multi-threaded language, JavaScript. But read file sync is a blocking piece of code which will block each and every line until this is executed. So until the file is read, it won't send a response. So again, this is definitely not the way to do it. What you want in your server is that it'll read the file, and as it's reading it line by line, as it's reading it like maybe first line or second line, third line, it's going to send those lines as a response in a stream of responses, right? So it will send the response slowly over to the person. Currently, what I'm trying to do is, just for the sake of simplicity, I'll store the file, the entire file, in the memory in this variable, and then I'll send it back to the user. So this is definitely not generally, this in production will not be accepted. So try not to go for this. Just this is for the purpose of understanding. So what I'll do over here is get the file. So we need to pass a file path over here. If you see read file sync requires a path. Right. So how do we give it a path? So there is yet another module called path. So instead of adding the require statement myself, I'll just do path, and my VS Code will automatically import path. We have path and path.join. So I'll just do directory name. So I'm getting the directory name, which was E and everything up until node session 5. And then I'll join it with index.html. And there we go. We have our file over there. Now, what I would want to do is to return this file by our res end. Let's run this again. And now if we go back, yeah, we see an HTML file. See, the title is also here. And now onwards, it won't try to get the fab icon because we are sending an HTML response, and we are sending the fab icon right inside over here, even though we're not mentioning it. So since we're sending an HTML response, a web-friendly response, it won't try to get another object over here. So that is it. We did this. But again, you want to differentiate stuff over here. So I'll make a folder instead. I'll call it public. So everything that you make, you should put inside a folder called public. And here, I'll just do public slash. Again, if you want, you can separate it into dir name, comma, public, comma, index.html. That also can be done because it's a path statement, join function. So you can give as many paths as you want, and it'll automatically add the forward slashes for you. All right. So now that that is done, we have seen basically how to make your own server and how to host files in your own server. So that was your HTTP module, and also a little bit about the file system module and the path module to help you create your first server. Now, coming to Node, when we install Node, we actually install one more thing. So let's just remove index, greeter, and HTML. We'll keep HTTP server aside for a while, and let's try to look at what else did we get. We got npm, which is Node Package Manager. So if I do Node version, I'll get 21.1.0. But if I do npm version, I should also get some value. because as soon as we install Node, we also install Node Package Manager. Now, what is this Node Package Manager? Now, this thing is actually very, very useful, and it will help you to manage your entire project and all the dependencies that you have for your project. So like in Java, you can add a Maven or a pom.xml file to uh, track all the dependencies. You can do it with Gradle also. And similarly, multiple languages in Dart, you have pubspec.yaml, and the YAML files, they allow you to add different packages to your application. Similarly, Node.js also has npm, and this allows you to take anyone else's code and get it into your application if they have a package ready for it. All right. So what will we try to do now? We'll try to learn a little more about npm so that we can make beautiful applications, beautiful web applications. Go to Google and npm. There it is, npmjs.com. Let's go to the home directory, and the first thing that comes up on the top right over there is search packages, because npm is basically a hub of packages. There are probably like hundreds of thousands of packages over there, and you can select any package and you can install it right over here. And not just any package, you can install any version of that package as well. So if you want maybe package A version 2, you can install version 2, and maybe your friend wants version 3, they can install version 3. So I'll try to search for some packages. So don't judge me on this, but when I was working on some project, I was using this package called nipple.js. Now, what is nipple.js? We'll figure out. Yeah, it's a virtual joystick for touch-capable interfaces. Now, just to make my name clear, we'll go and see the demo. It's a joystick. See, I can get the values. I was making a controller out of it, and that's why I used this package. And what made it so simple was I used npm to install it. So what you need to do is just run the install command. It's also available over here, npm I, and then you should be able to get that package and create whatever object you have. So every package will have certain different usage, and you can see the usage. The documentation will be available, and using that, you can pretty much make anything, or your website, you can actually make it 1,000 times better. Let's try to look for some other packages. Maybe I'm trying to think. Let's try for a YouTube video player. Yes. So we have a YouTube iframe player API abstraction. So there are multiple options as well: popularity, quality, and maintenance. You see all of these options over here. I'll open this YouTube player, and there it is. So this is the usage of your YouTube player. All you need to do to install it is npm I YouTube player, and maybe you'll take 1 day to build your own YouTube player with all the options and stuff. Maybe you'll take an hour, or maybe you'll take 30 minutes. But whatever time you take, this dependency, depending on this particular package on npm, just installing it will reduce that time, will actually mitigate all of that time that you will invest in this. So maybe you don't need to put 1 day to build your own YouTube player. You can just copy someone else's code because it's there. You can just steal if it's there, and then make your good YouTube player, and pretty much do everything beyond that. So what we'll be doing is we'll go and see express.js. Now, what is express.js? Let's try to see. Oh, npm most popular packages. Over here, there's a GitHub gist which ranks all of them. I don't know how old this might be. Yeah, it's last active 3 days ago. I don't know. I'm not sure, but you can see all of them. Like Friday, August 2019. Okay, so all of these are the top 1,000 most dependent upon packages, and over here on 5th, I see Express right below React. So it's pretty important, right? You'll see other packages also, .env, TypeScript, and so much more. You can go through it and see what other people are using to probably get a little bit of inspiration or an idea as to what might the other web developers be doing currently, like a current affairs scenario. So we have Express, which is an exact match. Let's go and see. Fast, unopinionated, minimalist web framework for Node.js. So again, what does Express let us do? I think it's very similar. We've seen this type of structure somewhere, haven't we? Yeah. Does this ring a bell? Create server and then listen. Yeah. App.get, app.express and listen. So we're basically building a web server, and we can add multiple methods, and it's condensing all of this code, all of this over here, into a very minimalistic code, and it's also adding stuff on its own. So we don't need to add 404 over here. We don't need to do all of that stuff. Express will do it for us. We don't need to add 200 or maybe something else if we want to change the codes. Express will do it for us. So it's basically built upon HTTP create server. It's nothing new. It's nothing alien. It's not no mind-boggling technology. No, it's built using whatever we're building stuff with, but it's just something that has more features. And why create everything from scratch if you can just use this and reduce your code or reduce your development cycle? So what we'll try is to install npm express, install Express, right? So before that, we need to initialize npm in our project directory. So how do we do it? It's very simple. We do npm init. Now, if you want to do it with the default options, you'll soon see what the options I'm talking about are. You can do it with -y. So it'll do it. It'll initialize npm in your project without adding, just considering the default options. But I'll take you through the entire process. So we do npm init. It will ask for the package name. I'll do enter for the default. Again, enter. Description, new server. Entry point is index.js. Okay, that's fine. Test command, no command. Git repository, nothing. No keywords, author, and license. And it'll ask for confirmation if it's okay. And yes, it is. So as soon as I do that, you'll see one more file created over here called package.json. So what does this package.json contain? It contains all the information about this particular package or this particular project that you're working on. So it'll have certain scripts also, like a test script, which will say that, yeah, no test has been specified. You need to change all of this by the time you have finished making your Node application. But it's just a little piece of code to begin with, right? A little description. Now what you want is to install Express. So this simple command is there, npm i express. Copy that, paste it over here, and let's go. Let's run this. It'll try to download. Found 0 vulnerabilities and packages are found, and a few more files show up. Node modules is a folder that shows up, and package.json shows up. Now let's talk a little theory about these two. Okay, so what's the difference between package.json and package.lock? Why do we need this one? So if you see package, there is one more line called express now. So we have defined what kind of module that we want and what version do we want. Yeah, and this caret symbol is going to take the latest version out of this without the breaking changes. So it's going to take everything past 4.18, but it's not going to take 5 point something. So that's what we have. But Express also needs some packages that it depends on certain packages. Like your project, it will depend on Express. If someone wants to work with your project, they will have to install Express as well. Otherwise, their project won't work, right? So for that, we have a package lock.json, which does what? Simply, it mentions everything that is required by all the packages here. So all your dependencies must have certain other dependencies, and those child dependencies are mentioned here. So Express needs body parser, so body parser is also here. Express needs cookie, cookie is also here, and all of these packages, they are required by Express, and they are mentioned over here. Then we have a node modules folder. Never touch this folder, never push this folder to GitHub. So what we'll do is make a new file, not here. We'll make a new file in the project directory called gitignore. And over here, I'll just do node modules hash. So when we initialize the repository, we'll be ignoring node modules. So this particular thing won't go up in the cloud, because as soon as we have package, all you need to do is npm I. If you have these two files, automatically node modules folder will be created or updated as required. Okay, so node modules folder contains every piece of code or signatures that are required by your package. So all of these are actually mentioned inside the package log JSON. So package log says that node modules must also have a bytes folder. So yeah, the bytes package is there, and it has a few files. You can see these files, but don't touch them. Okay, that is done. So let's create our first server with Express, a better server maybe. So what do we do? Again, very simple. We'll take this code because it's part of the starting code. So every package will have certain documentation as to how to use them. Try to read through, try to take stuff from there, and you utilize it to the best of your knowledge, and also change it according to your requirements. So we have this. I'll dock HTTP server on the other side, and let's try to see what's happening. So we are requiring the module Express. That's fine. The first 3 lines do that, right? Then we have the app, which is Express. We are initializing an app through the Express object. Are we doing the same thing over here in 5? We'll be initializing a server based on the method called createServer, which returns a server object. So that's what we're doing, the same thing over here. And then everything that you have inside, like all these if-else statements, and if you have more URLs or more parameters, maybe you might want some other page on some other URL. Maybe you want the about page. Maybe you want the documentation page. All of that, you'll need so many if statements, and it can become hell right inside this function, right inside this callback. So what would be best is to separate them. And how do we separate them? We make little functions, little callbacks call for get and stuff. And you see the line 7 to line number 9. We're doing 7 to 9 over here. Instead, we're just not sending back file. That's the only thing that's remaining. Apart from that, we're doing pretty much everything. And finally, we are listening on port 3000. So instead of port 3000, let's go for port 5000. And again, we'll go for a callback. And this callback will again take this over here. All right. So we'll start the server node dot, and server is listening at port 5000. Yeah, we get the same. And here we have it, hello world. So we are sending text again, and it's coming up as text. Okay, so we have it. And the only thing that you notice is that even though we're sending text, it's not going for favicon.ico, because Express is doing stuff for you, and it's converting that into a more readable format for the browser, so that it does not make continuous requests for the favicon or certain other files. And you're getting this. Instead, if you had done it with the basic HTTP server, then like we were seeing, we got a black screen with just the text on it. So it was plain text, but here it's more HTTP, HTML version of that text. Okay. So since we have this, let's try to send some files from Excel like we did over here. So very simple again. We'll do require file. So const. Oh, why am I typing again? Again, I forgot we are all lazy developers. We'll just copy and paste. Copy and paste. So app express, it's fine. We do a get, and then in res, I don't want to send. I'll do a send file. So like I told you, in production, you won't actually do this. You won't store the file in the memory, and you'll make the file. You'll pipeline the file directly to the user, directly to the client as you're reading it. So as you're reading the file line by line, you're going to send it line by line as well. So here in Express, you can do it just by using this function. So all that code, additional code, you don't need to write actually. So we do send file, do path dot join again, the name this should be fine. Public slash index dot html. And once we have done that, we can start the server again. And there we go. We have our old HTML page actually. Public HTML. Let's close this, and we have this. Okay, now one final thing that you would want is that you have your server, right? You have your index page, but no one actually sends it like this. Like we went to the GitHub page, we went to the page, some random page which had the 404 notification. So over here you can see how well formatted it is. It has its own nav bar, it has its own bottom navigation with so many things and so much stuff, and an image also for you to see. You ought to make all of that, and all of that cannot be made using HTML, right? Of course, we have to make something using CSS. We have to differentiate the files at one point. You can of course put CSS inside this HTML, and you can make do with that style sheet, but we don't want to do that. Instead, we will make a new file called styles.css. We have styles.css and simple stuff that I'll do just to demonstrate what I want to what happens after I do this. So background color, I'll set it to antique white. Seems nice. Just something to start with. And here we will do a link CSS style sheet. It's styles.css. So we have done this. Now if we try to send this back to our server, so let's just clear and start it again so that no doubts are made. We see that it's trying to get it, but again you see it's trying to link the styles.css, but it says that it's not found because we are not referencing, we're not hosting our file somewhere, our CSS file. So all the other things inside the public directory must also be made available to the public. So how do we do that? It's very easy to do. We do app.use. Now this is another method in Express. So how do I know about it? I've obviously read about it. And how can you also read about it? Again, just go to website and documentation. And here they have the API documentation. That's in beta for 5, but it's still it's nice. I'll do use. So over here we have application, and these are all the methods for the application. Or delete, get. So get, post, put, post, and delete. These are all methods for HTTP requests. You can use also, and you have all as well. So use, if you go to, you'll see how it works. It's mounts the specified middleware function. And if you do not understand this, then good for you, because even I did not understand it when I read about it the first time. So basically what it does is, if you have certain path over here mentioned, then let's say that some path you have like temporary. So everything after this path, so temp, or maybe temp/help, or maybe temp/0, or temp/1, all the folders, they will all these all paths, they will be requested. If I do certain requests like get, put, post, delete, they will go to this as well. They won't go just to this. They won't go to this. In fact, this is the primary one. This is the base of your web page. This is the welcome page. But anything after that, if I have temp anything like that, if I make a request over there in the URL, this is what I'm talking about actually. I hope I'm actually able to explain it well enough. So if I have temp, or if I have temp/all, if I have temp/1, temp/2, and all of that, I have temp also, they will all trigger this. If I have just this backslash, which is this page currently, it'll trigger this, which is what it's actually doing at the moment. So you can use this. And there is one more thing that you need to know is by default, the path to this is the /. So by default, it's going to be executed for all the things, for all the requests that are made to your server. So you don't have to mention this. What I'll do is do express.static. Again, why? This is yet another function that is used to host static files. These files don't change, so these files must be hosted statically to the user. And then I'll do path.join their name and do public. There you go. So what it does is it'll take everything in the public folder from this statement, and then it will host all of them whenever there is any kind of request that is made to your server. So if I'm doing a get request to this, if I'm doing a delete request to this, everything, they will always get all the files inside the public folder. If they are requesting it, they should be able to access it. So once that is done, I will run this again, and server is listening, and let's go for it. And you see the color changes right over there. If I have some other color, maybe I'll go for an ugly color, blue. Blue is actually a nice color, ugly on HTML. And there it is. It does it pretty well. Now, you might have noticed how I have been stopping the server and then running it back again every time I'm changing something inside the server. So the thing that you'll want instead is to go for a new package called NodeMon. So you do NodeMon. What is NodeMon? It's actually something that will help you develop all your applications. And as soon as you save a file, as soon as you refresh a file, it automatically executes a particular statement for you. So again, very easy to do this. npm I NodeMon. Run this, and it should be here soon. There we have it. So we have NodeMon over there. Now inside the scripts folder, you can follow the tutorial over here, and everything that's up there. You can do is make a new one called start, and do NodeMon, NodeMon server or index.js, right? So if I do npm start, you should see that NodeMon automatically starts it up, and server is now listening. And if I want to change something over here, if I maybe do server is now listening at port, server is now running at port, then you can see as soon as I save it, it automatically refreshes my JavaScript runtime for me, and I get whatever I have over here. So again, something maybe antique white was good. There we go. We have our HTML page. You can add JavaScript as well. All you need to do is link them over here, and that's pretty much it. You made your Express application, or if you were following, in fact, if you weren't following, then I made my nth Express application for you guys, and we have made this much code. We have written this much code, and we'll be able to make new servers, and we'll be able to host our servers online. So if you go to any hosting platform like DigitalOcean or Google Cloud, then you will be able to see that you can deploy Node applications as well. And what are these Node applications? They are deploying all your files and stuff on the web, so that when you refer to any of the links or any of the URLs, you will get the respective file. So I might have some other file for some other page, maybe the about page or maybe the documentation page, like I said, all of that. And yeah, a very big thank you if you have been awake. And if you haven't been, then you'll have the session on YouTube. You can watch it anytime. I'll go back to the screen to see all the questions in the chat messages. Hopefully, they're not too difficult for me to answer. Oh, okay. I already pushed my known modules folder. Uh, well, you can try reverting it because you shouldn't push it. Every time you make a change, you'll see 1,000 or maybe 65,000 lines of code that are changing. Okay, someone joined right when we're about to leave. I hope you were already there in the meeting. Fine. So that was the session. If you have any questions, please mention them in the chat box. I'd love to answer them. We had someone raising their hand as well. No question so far. Okay, Shamal left. Okay, all right. Before you guys leave, one more thing that the next session would be on React JS. So I hope you join that one as well. And React JS will be taught by Microsoft Student Chapters lead, technical lead, Sauradeep Dash, and he will be teaching you all about it. Please be there. It's going to be taking place, conducted tomorrow, actually, on Monday, around the same timing as well. So if there are no questions, please feel free to leave. And thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting my monotonous lecture. And I hope to see you in the next video.
Aniket, I suppose you can end the meeting altogether.
Yeah, I was just waiting for questions because we still have time. No questions. All right. Bye bye, everyone. Have a good night.